Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to another episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Sunday, which of course means it's match day review time, and it's another Saturday with 3 points for the Gills. But it's another Saturday where we made it very hard for ourselves with another red card. I'm pleased to say that Rhys, after a week off, is back to discuss said 3-0 win against Nigel Atkins' Tranmere Rovers. We do not have a Whites fan today, unfortunately. Cannot think why, but we shall move forward regardless. Rhys, lots to unpack again. 3-0 win, but that doesn't tell half the story.
Absolutely not. No. There's a game that there's a lot went on in that game. A lot of unpacking that one is going to be. We could talk for hours on the game yesterday, but luckily we're on the right side of a good result, so it makes it a lot more pleasurable to discuss, no doubt.
Absolutely, indeed, yeah, and that's 3 wins from 3 now in the league at the Priestfield. 14 unbeaten, I think, overall since last Boxing Day. And I think I saw a tweet from Hayden Parry last night that said longest run since the back end of the 1990s when we went 17 unbeaten on our own patch. So it'd be great if we could go and surpass that. But as we know, Mark Bonner likes to say, one game at a time, one step at a time. So we'd not want to get ahead of ourselves. We shall instead go back to 2 p.m. Saturday afternoon, which was when team news came out. And there was a trio of changes for Mark Bonner's Gillingham from last week's 1-0 defeat at Doncaster Rovers. And we lined up with Glenn Morris in goal, with back four of Romeo Hutton, the returning Max Amer, Shadogi and Max Clark. It was then Ethan Coleman partnering Armani Little in the middle of the park, Jack Nolan, George Lapsley, and then 2 changes. Joe Bode and Elliot Nevitt came into the starting 11. For our visitors, it was a 4-4-2, which I think was a little bit fluid and a little bit flexible. It seemed to change throughout the game, but they started off with Luke McGee in goal, a back four of Norman, Davies, Turnbull and Wood. Quartet in front was Patrick, Hendry, O'Connor and Morris, and a front two of Jennings and Davison. Rhys, paragraph. As we always do, I've thought Gills bossed the first half. Our visitors took half an hour or so to cause us any real problems. So the goal straight after half-time was deserved. From the questionable red card, I thought our shape was again outstanding and we gave up minimal chances given the man disadvantage before notching 2 superb counter-attacking goals.
I mean, do you write headlines or write paragraphs of paper? Because you've pretty much nailed it on that one. You've described it perfectly well, actually. It's interesting because we're talking right at the start. We lose the toss, I think, for 3 home games in a row now. We end up shooting towards the Raidham end in the first half, which for me is I don't know, because you obviously sit at the Raidham end. It must be a bit of a gut-in feeling, actually, because that's one thing you look forward to in the second half is attack towards the Raidham end. But we've managed to lose 3 in a row, and unless we're deciding to do that, I doubt that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a coincidence now that it's happened a trio of times. And I suppose that the thing is, if we're having to shoot towards the Rainham end every week in the first half and we win every week, then I'll continue to take it. The most confusing thing for me is when I'm writing the notes, because I think of stuff that happens in the game and I go, oh, Joe Bode fired over into the Brian Moore stand. That must have been the first half.
First half, yeah.
No, that was the second half because people keep turning us around. But yeah, yeah, it doesn't work. That's the thing at the moment. They keep doing it and we keep finding a way to score an early goal, whether that's in front of the Rainham end or the Brian Moore stand. So I think that's now, is that 4 goals in the first 10 minutes of halves, I think? I think we scored early each half against Carlisle.
I think so, yeah.
Chesterfield and early again in the second half yesterday. So it's.
But the thing is, like when you'll notice that when that happens, every time we've started with some pace, some power, and some absolute meaning. Like it's same as we're going to the first 4 or 5 minutes of yesterday, we were on top instantly. Like, and yeah, I wonder if that has something to do with it. Like, okay, we're attacking the Rainham end, we best go hell for leather here and really make use of that advantage going towards the home fans.
Yeah, I've written down first 10 minutes intensity and energy was absolutely magnificent. Tranmere couldn't live with us. 3 or 4 good deliveries flashed across the box, plus a big block from a shot. I thought then the game settled down a little bit. It sort of went into its pattern, which is going to happen. I thought there was some really intriguing individual battles all over the pitch, though. I thought Omari Patrick against Max Clark was a really good one. Max Clark very good defensively, but not the quickest. We know Patrick is. There was a couple of times I think they tried to isolate him, but he done really well. Josh Davison against Shadogi / Max Amer was good fun as well. 3 physical players that want to head the ball, want to get to the ball and use it. I say 3 contests. The third one was a non-contest and would have been stopped if it was a boxing match. Joe Bode was absolutely magnificent against a very good right back in Cameron Norman. This is a bloke who's played for Newport and MK Dons. Nutmegs, feints, shimmies, step overs. to the point where when Norman had to go down and get some treatment. I'm not sure whether he was actually injured or just whether he wanted 5 minutes, because
Yeah.
Joe Bode throughout the game was very good. But in that first 15, 20 minutes, thought he absolutely set the tone.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm really happy for Bode as well. Like, you know, he's come through our ranks, and uh, he's been floating around here and there over seasons, and he might get an appearance here and there the last 5-10 minutes, but to get a start yesterday and to really show what he's made of, it was a real breath of fresh air. It was. I was so impressed of how he approached the game, and it's the kind of player that we're really looking for as well, that power, that confidence, and it's just only going to grow with him. But yesterday was a real good showing from Bode for me, and you know, we'll discuss probably man of the match at the end of the game, but he's up there for real contention for that amongst a whole host of players in that squad yesterday that I thought were excellent. But Bode is right up there with, and right from the off, he was there. You could see he had presence, and that had Norman asking lots of questions to begin with, which is why he went down, probably had a break for a minute or two with the physio.
Yeah, and you could tell because he was constantly whining at the linesman, the fourth official, the referee, centre half. It was everyone's fault but Cameron Norman's, it felt. And we'll get onto him a bit in a little while when we discuss the man in the middle, which I feel we have to do. And you know, me and you have slightly different approaches to officials, but I feel it's a performance from an official that needs discussing. But yeah, just because we have to remember, Joe Bode wasn't even meant to be in the squad last week, and then he got 15 minutes at Doncaster because Bradley Dack pulled out last minute. But he was very good against Peterborough in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy. So yeah, he's starting to put together a run of games where, and there was, I don't know if you noticed on camera, literally first 5 minutes, won a corner, and conducting the orchestra and the rain, saying, "Come on, give us more." And I thought that's absolutely brilliant.
That's what you want. I mean, it shows the confidence. It shows where he wants to be. Like, and also, like, I know we've got injuries. I know the 8 people that we have out at the moment could all be starting. Like, they're all starters. But at the moment, Bode is a starter, and he's holding the shirt, so he has to own that, and he has to hold on to it as much as possible. And you saw that yesterday, that he really meant a lot to him, and to go for it. You know, he's holding the starting 11 shirt at the moment. You got to take it off of him.
Absolutely, it's up to others now to go and, like you say, take it off him, and that's a great place to be. After that, again, I thought Gills controlled the game. We didn't force Luke McGee to counter saves or anything like that. It wasn't a game of loads of saves, full stop. But I felt we were the ones that were controlling the tempo. We were controlling where the game was being played. And then I've put first signs of Will Finney midway, 2/3 of the way through the first period. There's a booking for George Lapsley for slamming the ball down. Yeah. Now, I know you shouldn't do it. I totally get that. And I know Mark Bonner's alluded to it. But my God, why has he not been given the free kick? I mean, at this point, we're half hour in. Cameron Norman has spent half an hour moaning, delaying play, delaying restarts, fouling, pulling shirts, generally just being a pest, which is absolutely fine. That's his prerogative. He essentially just shoves George Lapsley into the advertising hoardings in the Medway stands. Referee gives nothing. So I can understand why George Lapsley has got the ump. So for me, if the referee does his job to start with, we're not in a position where George Lapsley then gets booked for dissent.
Yeah, I don't think you're far wrong there. I think Rhys will start the discussion with him. I thought it seemed to me yesterday the referee was very much aligned to protecting the away team more than the home team yesterday. And I'm not saying that was consistent for the whole game, but for large portions of the game, and that example of Lapsley getting booked after being shoved into the advertising hoardings is a really good example of that. And I thought it was a free kick. And if you're in a battle like that and you get squished against the advertising hoardings, I think the only natural reaction is to, I mean, even if you got the free kick, to have that energy and frustration that you've been whacked in the advertising hoarding to slam the ball down, I think that's, from my perspective, understandable. And at an absolute minimum for me, I think the ref needs to remind Lapsley, look, these are the kind of things you can get booked for. But he was just very card happy with the home side. That's unfortunate.
And that's my point. That's going to be my next point. It seemed he couldn't get his cards out of his pocket quick enough for us. But I think Josh Davison, and I've written this down at the end, but I'm going to talk about it now. He was on the pitch 55 minutes there, centre forward, made 3 or 4 fouls. Didn't so much as get a talking to. Yet, as soon as Gillingham's players, any type of an offence, it was, right, there you go, there's a booking. Can't get my card out quick enough. That was what frustrated me. There was another one for Ethan Coleman a couple of minutes later, which I didn't think was a foul. Similar to the Carlisle game opening day, where Jaden Clark got booked for a sort of side-on foul. And yet, I think it was their centre half had done it on Jack Nolan earlier in the piece in the penalty area. No foul. All we're asking for, again, is just a little bit of consistency.
And sometimes I understand, like, to give the officials a little bit of a concession. Like, as the game goes on, sometimes it probably is hard to judge what is hard a tackle compared to another one, and so on. But you do need to show some level of consistency and at least an attempt to give what you would give for the home side and the away side as equal. But actually, I preempted we're going to discuss this, and I did look at a couple of things going back, because during the game I was thinking, or maybe it was like a fair approach from the referee, but there were a couple of questions from my side, and I did think, sorry, that there was a little bit of protectionism going for the away side compared to us, and the referee was very happy to dish out yellow cards and to calm things down from our side, but then to be not so much for the Tranmere side. And I'm sure Tranmere fans may see it differently, of course. But
absolutely, yeah. And we all have the sort of the rose tinted glasses, so to speak. I understand that entirely. But yeah, it just felt to me that it was, for one side, he couldn't get his notebook out of his back pocket quick enough, and for the other side, it was like, oh, don't worry, boys, next time maybe. That's just how it felt to me.
Yeah, and I don't think you're far wrong there, and I think maybe we can, on rare occasions, agree with each other with a poor referee performance between us.
Anyway, back to the football. A couple of deliveries from out wide. One from Ogie, I think, was flicked over by Elliot and Nevitt. That was a half chance for the Gills. And then, to be fair to Tranmere, they probably had their best period of the game in terms of up to half time. The last 10 minutes they were on top. I think they kept the ball a lot better, and they managed to push us back into our third. I think their big chance, if you can call it that, was the ball falling to Connor Jennings on the edge of the box, and he takes a shot. We don't know whether Glenn Morris has got it covered or not, but Shadogi doesn't take any chances. Magnificent block with his chest or his chin or something that we know Shad is more than happy to do. The quintessential take one for the team. And I think then the follow-up gets blocked for a corner, which we deal with fairly well. And then they had another half chance. I think it was the first time in the half where they sort of got space to run into. I think it was Josh Davison, who we've already mentioned, sort of inside left channel, drags it woefully wide. But it was just a reminder that although we'd been on top for the first half hour, that Tranmere were a side that was unbeaten coming into the fixture. They've got good players. I know I spoke to Matt from the Trip to the Moon podcast in the preview show, and he said they might just lack a little bit of like a Rob Apter type that they had last season, and it felt like that. But they were still in the game. It was still goalless, and we still had to be on our mettle and be aware that they were going to cause us problems at times.
They were always a threat in that first half, regardless. I think it was nice. It's a pretty good wake up call for the Gills that they were coming forward. Oh, Tranmere are here. We need to be defensively solid. That cash play you're talking about with the 3 blocks, I actually thought that was brilliant. I think putting everything on the line. I love that as a goalkeeper. I love that for first and foremost. But it was really good to see that yesterday, particularly that passage play that Tranmere had. But also, I mean, for the whole first half considered, like I don't think Tranmere have conceded many goals this season, except yesterday, of course.
One goal until yesterday.
And after that first half had concluded, I totally could see why. The way they were set up, it was that they were very solid in the first half. It was very hard to get past them, even though we were playing a bit. It was open play. It was open football. It was being sprayed around everywhere. It was a very sort of even game in that context. Even though I thought we controlled most of it, I do feel that you could see why Tranmere hadn't conceded many goals this season so far.
Yeah, I think I said to Boz halfway through, I said, you can see why they've not conceded loads, but you can also see why they've only scored 3 in their first 4. So you can see why they're sort of going under a goal a game in both of them, in them attributes. And yeah, not for 1 minute did I see it ending up as it did, but
no.
it did. Lovely stuff. Yeah, I think final chance for us was I think we pinched ball edge of our box and broke really well. It might have been Hutton or Nolan flashed the ball into the 6 yard area, and I think it was Joe Gabode sort of flung his toe out, and it flew into the Raynham end, and that was the last half chance of the game. Not the game, sorry, the first period. And with that, the half-time whistle came. I think both sets of fans were probably quite happy. Gills had generally been on the front foot, albeit not making the most of the territory, and Tranmere away from home against a good side were in the game and had something to build on for the second period.
I think if you're on a away side and you've switched the half and you're making the home team shoot towards your away fans in the first half, I think it's a success if you manage to keep a clean sheet. And I'm sure Tranmere was thinking that. So like, we've done our bit now. Like that's where the threat really is. We're going to use all our energy to try and not concede in this first half, having switched the sides of which we're going to play from. I wonder if Tranmere maybe were the happier team going in at half time than us. But I think Tranmere would consider that as a successful first half, having to kept a clean sheet.
Yeah, potentially, because I think we shaded the possession first half. I mean, obviously it got skewed and lopsided because of the second half red card. But yeah, I think we'd had like 52% in the first 45 minutes, so we were controlling the game to a degree. We weren't, playing them off the park. I'm not sitting here and saying that at all. But we did take the lead very early in the second period. It's something we've done very well. We've scored goals early in games or in periods so far this season. We scored after 5 minutes at home to Carlisle. We scored after 2 minutes in the second half against Carlisle. We scored within 10 minutes against Chesterfield. Again yesterday, within 2 minutes of the restart. The finish, I think it's fair to say, and I love Armani Little. I think he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a footballer at this level from what we've seen so far. Yeah. The finish doesn't do the build-up justice, is all I'm going to say. I've watched your video. You didn't know what was going on. No. I've watched ours back. I'm still convinced from my seat that it takes a massive deflection, but it doesn't. He tops it into the floor and just completely deceives Luke McGee. But from before that, it's absolutely magnificent from Gillingham. Joe Bode, like you've said, fearlessness, pace, aggression, athleticism, running power. I think he looked like he'd lost control of it a couple of times. He then rode a challenge and nicked it back off the play, drives over the halfway line. Jules Lapslie then gets his head up really well after taking it off Joe to give it to Jack Nolan. Jack Nolan then plays a really clever ball in behind the fullback. And then from there, you think Romeo Hutton can just flash it across the 6-yard box, but he doesn't. He has a look and he holds his space and he sees where Armani Little's just sort of taken a run into the box and then just stopped. That part is absolutely wonderful. The finish, I'm going to say, we probably deserved our luck for the build-up.
I think it reminded me of some of my pitching wedge shots I used to it.
Yeah, I did think that reminded me of trying to play golf. Yeah, it was horrible attempt at a tee shot.
But or maybe Little is bluffing us all, and he totally 100% was intentional with that one.
I think Mark Bonner's already sold him out in his post-match, to be honest.
Fair enough. No,
but I think the reporter referred to it as tucking it in the corner, and Mark Bonner went, he didn't tuck it corner at all.
But you know what, right? The thing is, though, the whole build-up play is excellent, and I think that's the most important part of this whole package of play. Bodie is excellent, great power athleticism, as you already said, and I think the compelling bit for me is the intelligence of Hutton on that right-hand side, because we can always get the ball over to the right-hand side very easily. Hutton's always going to be there, but I think the easy option is just to flash it across the goal. That's the easy option. And if you mess that up or it doesn't come to fruition of anything, you don't really blame Hutton for that. You go, well, that's part and parcel of crossing the ball from the right-hand side. This time, though, there's space and he finds Little. And just that little look up, that extra second of time makes obviously a goal's worth of difference, albeit the slice of the shot that goes on the right-hand side. But you have you create that chance, and if there's you say you make your own luck. I think that's a great definition of it. Really,
absolutely, yeah, that goal sums it up, because the first 80-90% of it is absolutely brilliant from us, and then we get that little bit of luck at the end where he tops it into the floor. I thought Tranmere responded fairly well, to be honest. They didn't go, feel sorry for themselves and sort of resort into the shell. They went, right, let's go and try and get back in, which you've got to do. I understand that. But I think they had a chance shortly after. I think ball came in from, might have been Cameron Norman. He seemed to be an outlet second half, certainly after the red card, but even before. I think we defend the first phase of it really well, but the clearance sort of takes a deflection and falls at the feet of Omari Patrick, who shifts his weight really well. It's a save I'd expect a keeper of Glenn Morris's class to make, which he does. Yep. He makes sure he gets two hands on it and beats it away. But it was just a warning that even at 1-0, this game wasn't done, despite the fact that we know Tranmere haven't scored loads of goals.
No, absolutely, and again, it's just you're always at your most vulnerable when you score. And I thought that we rode out that passage of play after we scored quite well, and it was a reminder again that Tranmere were a threat, regardless if we had 10 men or not. They were always going to be a threat. And I think you're right that without a Rob Apter yesterday, you could really notice that, and that was really that for me was really interesting perspective of Tranmere not having him in the squad, and you could on the team. It felt like they got to that final third, and either it ended up as a half chance or an easy save, and nothing really came to the final conclusion for Tranmere. Kind of felt like us 2 seasons ago, moving forward into the final third was Tranmere yesterday actually, but they still posed that threat. And I've got to say, I mean, obviously the way when I'm watching this game, I always saw Norman and and Hendry. They had really good chemistry with each other yesterday, and they were trying to create stuff. But I was actually, despite Norman being under the cosh all the time from Bode, I actually thought Norman held himself quite well for Tranmere throughout the game. I was quite impressed with him throughout, despite him going down very easily and calling the physio and all that kind of malarkey. But I was impressed with his general play yesterday. I thought he was doing a decent job of trying to get things moving down there, and he was instrumental in trying to create some opportunities for Tranmere in that second half.
Probably sums it up well. I thought he was better going forward. I thought defensively, Joe Bode
Oh yeah,
absolute strings.
in his back pocket, absolutely.
I was absolutely brilliant against him. And again, we've said it before. He just doesn't care for reputations, Joe Bode, does he? He's playing against a bloke that's played, lots and lots of EFL games, but he doesn't care. He's not worried about that at all. He's just, this is my game. This is my foot. It's almost like he's still in the park, playing with his mates, and he's just absolutely enjoying the fact that he's out there playing football. But he's bloody good at it as well, which helps us.
and on top of that as well, you can only play what's put in front of you, so it doesn't matter who's in front of you. You just play your own game, right? And I think that's his mentality into this, and you can definitely see that. Like, I'm playing my game of football. Whoever's in front of me, you've got to do what you've got to do to try and stop me. If you can't do it, it's not my problem.
Absolutely that, 100%. Talking of Bode, he was the next person to have sort of a half chance, and again, it was that powerful running and that fearlessness. Got a bit excited, didn't he? I think you can see what he's trying to do. He's about 30 yards out and he's trying to whip it in the top corner, but he whips it into the top corner of the Brian Moore stand, unfortunately, from our point of view. But again, absolutely no issue with that. Again, you could see a kid would do that, would want to play square, would want to pass backwards and take the safe option. Absolutely none of that with Joe. Absolutely looks like he's arrived.
No, absolutely. No, I mean, I think every single Gillingham player's had a shot that had more chance of going in Chatham's goal than our goal every now and again. But I think Bodie's one yesterday was an example of that. But I think on the video I said yesterday, like, do you know what? The fact he missed it by whatever was 30 yards just shows, like, oh yeah, okay, one of those are going to go in one day. That's the confidence he has.
And how many times did we say last season, no one shoots from outside the box?
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
And we've he's doing that. Johnny Williams has scored from outside the box this season. Jack Nolan was inside the box, but from a stupid angle that he took it on against Carlisle. So people are trusting their ability, and having faith in themselves to hit the target and create something. And that's what we need if we want to be a good side.
And a byproduct of that is that you're gonna miss wildly every now and again as a result of that, because it happens. But more often than not, if you have confidence, you're going to make more right decisions. You're going to have better opportunities that you create for yourself, and ultimately potentially score or create something out of nothing. And that comes from confidence. That grows from confidence.
Absolutely, yeah. And winning games and momentum and all them type of things. There was one other half chance for the Gills. I think Max Clark crossed in and Elliot Nevitt headed over up after getting above his centre half. It was never going to trouble Luke McGee. And then you talk of Wild. Now, I'm going to give not the referee some credit. That's too strong a word. But I said on the match day live that I didn't think it was a foul, the second foul. I thought that it was just a coming together and they both just missed the ball. I've seen the highlights. Coleman makes contact with, I think it's Saidu Khan. So, yes, if you look at that in isolation, it's probably a yellow card. But my question again is, why is the game not stopped a minute or so before when there's a massive, obvious foul on Ethan Coleman, which is the point him and Max Emer are trying to make to the referee? I know Mark Bonner has said, well, you can't react like that and go and try and, I don't know whether he's sort of alluding to two wrongs don't make a right and that type of thing. But again, if the referee does his job properly in the first instance, we're not in a position where, firstly, George Lapsley's getting a yellow card and this time Ethan Coleman's being punished with a second yellow and a red, having just got back in the side. Your thoughts?
I think throughout the play of the game, because I have that slightly different viewpoint of the camera. Um, do you know what? I think the second foul is a yellow.
Yeah, no, I've got no dispute in that now.
Yeah, and I also the foul leading up to it, I think a lot of referees will give that as well, and therefore the second yellow card doesn't happen. And I also think from the first one as well, it's one of those ones that some referees will give, and I think ultimately the most frustrating thing is, and we've said this before, don't make it easy for a referee to make a decision. Just don't do that. And for me, that comes from playing experience. You know, if you make it easy for the ref to make a decision, he'll probably make it. And like ultimately, the way we were defending so well yesterday, if I don't know who he tackled actually in the end, I think it was the substitute that came on. But I think if Ethan just lets that go, we probably defend that anyway. And we have
I think if you just break it down into that isolated incident and forget the referee's performance to that point, you say just let him run past you because it's on the halfway line. I totally get that, but I think we have to talk about the referee because, like we said, he's picking and choosing what he's giving as fouls when the two tackles are essentially the same.
The same they are. Yeah, you're right.
One's deemed yellow card worthy, and one's deemed not even a foul. That's the frustration again. I think from a Gills fan, certainly my perspective.
But I think also I think also, mate, you know, I never believe a referee's out there to make the game unfair. I never think that. So therefore, what's it come down to? It comes to either what the referee saw or his ability. So it's one of those two things. It might be a combination of both. It could be the simplest thing that the referee he saw something that didn't make the first one a foul. And whether it was or not is another thing entirely, but he might have seen it as something that wasn't. And as frustrating as that might be, it probably, most referees probably give that first one on Ethan a foul. Absolutely. But, you know, ref might have seen something which deemed it not being a foul. And the truth of reality is, even though we think it's the wrong decision, Ethan has to respond to that in a more professional way and not risk himself getting sent off. And I think that's the whole reality of the whole thing.
Just looking at the stats, though, this is a game played. We played what, 98 minutes.
Yeah,
we've made 10 fouls. They've made 11. We've ended up with 4 yellow cards and a red. They've not got 1 card. Are you telling me our challenges in that game were that much different to the Tranmere challenges?
I just noticed that on my screen they didn't get a yellow card the whole game, and I thought they put some tasty tackles in. That's a fair point, actually. That doesn't seem like it's been, and I think that goes right back to the first point. Like, I think the referee was a bit more protectionist against Tranmere than against us, and you know, if you that argument on the outside looks like, oh yeah, that's quite a compelling argument. I mean, the only way to ever find that is to look at each of those, was it now 21 fouls, and what one's yellows and what ones are not. We're not going to do that, but
no, of course.
But statistically speaking, you would think the ones that we've been given the yellow for, Tranmere should have had similar-ish fouls. I mean, it's a game of football on the same pitch, for Christ's sake. You know, of course, some of them are going to be similar, right?
If you watched it as a neutral and watched that game, and it was just Reds versus Blues or whatever, I don't think you'd watch the game and go, "Cool, yeah, one team's ended up with a red card and the other team and 4 yellows, and the other team's got nothing at all," because it didn't feel like that type of football match. But again, I understand rose-tinted glasses to a degree. We'll move on. I said to Boz, we've been here before. So we went to 4-4-1 again. We banked up. We made 2 changes. We took off Joe Bode, who was excellent. We took off Jack Nolan, who I think sat down with some sort of cramp or something just as the red card happened. So Jacob Wakeling and Jaden Clark come on as straight swaps. George Lapsley dropped in next to Armani Little, and we said to Elliot Nevitt, just last as long as you can, which wasn't a lot longer. Saidu Khan, who's involved in the red card, then has a chance. I think this is a better save from Glenn Morris. He has to get down and get a big, strong left hand out and get it away from danger, which he does really well. And then shortly after that, I think Max Emer has to get back and flick one off the line. And I said to Boz at this point, and the sort of people around us were talking and said, this is going to be a long afternoon now. Like, the clock's going to slow down. It's going to feel like... it felt like the first time in the game that Tranmere were really in control of the football matches. They were dictating where the football was being played, and they were camped in our half for a period. There's no point disputing that at all. Everyone sat there and watched it. So we reacted and took off Elliot Nevitt and brought on Marcus Wiley, who we'll talk about in a little while. But yeah, I don't know how you felt again, but I did it for the Chesterfield game. I just thought we just got to break this down into 5 or 10 minute sections.
Yeah.
So we went from 61 to get to 66 or 71, and then get from 71 to 76 or 81, and then worry about copious amounts of injury time when that comes up at the end. You can't legislate for that, but it just felt like we had to compartmentalize the game
Yes.
into little blocks and just start getting through little triggers and little checkpoints at that point for me. And I thought we did it really well.
Yeah, we chunked the game up nicely, I think, and it was yeah. It just had flashes of Chesterfield at home, didn't it? And it had that same aura. And you think, oh, here we go again. It's roughly the same time the red card comes out, I think, as well. It's very similar. Yeah. It's very similar. And you think, okay, maybe the fact. Do you know what though? I will say this: when that red card happened, and even got his marching orders, and Tranmere started to build into the game and try to use that to their advantage. Of course, they would do. At the Chesterfield game, the time went slower. I was more concerned. I was really worried. When Tranmere had the man advantage, when we got the red card, there was something about it me going, do you know what? I don't feel as worried as the Chesterfield game, but I can't tell you why, but it just didn't feel as concerning to me. And even though Tranmere were controlling the game, I felt quite comfortable, surprisingly. And I can't, for the life of me, work out why the difference between those feelings between Chesterfield and Tranmere are for me. But yesterday watching it, I was like, do you know what? I think we're going to be all right. But I don't know why. It just felt that way.
That's really odd because me and Boz were chatting about it, and he turned around after so I think the red card was 61 and we was at 76 minutes, and he went, that clock stopped. And I went, I thought it's gone really fast, Boz.
Yeah.
I said, we're halfway through, we've got halfway through that half hour.
Mm.
But I'd also just said the complete opposite of what you just said. I thought that spell where the Khan shot and the one off the line, I said, I felt more concerned yesterday than against Chesterfield. So it's weird how the individual, we're not going to do a science lesson. It's not a channel for that. You can go and look on YouTube because we're not doing that at all. But yeah, it's just weird how individual brains see different things. After that sort of 15 minutes, and we saw out that period, similar feelings to yourself. I felt we was all right. And obviously the second goal helped as well greatly. But yeah, it's just interesting you said that because Boz was convinced that the clock was going backwards. You and me both thought it was going really fast. But I felt more concerned against Tranmere for a period yesterday than I did against Chesterfield, and you were the opposite way around.
It's really strange. It's really odd. I wonder, though, for me, if it's because for the Chesterfield game, it was Aymer that got sent off, wasn't it? Right? Yeah. Whereas this, Aymer was on the pitch. And I don't know if it's just because you got that experience at the back. I feel like he can cope with 10 men. And did we bring Hawkins on at some point as well? Like was that
genuinely don't know what the system was for the last 8 minutes. I think it was like a 5. I think I've written it. I think it was like a 5-1-2-1.
Something like that. I just felt I don't know what it's for the whole time. I thought, do you know what, we're probably going to pull through. It just felt, but the Chesterfield game, I think the clock actually went backwards for periods of time. But this one, yes, it didn't for me.
Maybe it's because, like you're saying, we'd done it 2 weeks ago, so you thought,
yeah,
at least we've. And I suppose the other advantage yesterday was we didn't have to change the back four because it was a midfielder. No. Whereas last time we had to drop Lapsley into midfield, we had to drop McKenzie in the centre half. So this time maybe it was just no real changes in personnel.
And we had good outlets at the top. I think we had counter-attack options, which ultimately came to the fruition of 2 goals. And I think that might have been the difference as well, actually.
I think certainly in terms of the fact that we was able to go and play on the counter-attack a bit better than we did against Chesterfield. But I'd also say, despite contradicting myself a little bit here, Chesterfield probably kept the ball better than Tranmere. So Tranmere allowed us to counter-attack a little bit better.
Yeah,
they were a bit predictable. Right. Anyway, where did we get to?
I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, there was another yellow card for Ramo Hutton, who took about 3 seconds to take a throw in. So that was obviously
too long, apparently.
We'll move on from that, even though I think Luke McGee laid on it for about 25 seconds in the first half, I counted. But we'll move on. Yeah, then there was a bit where I said to Boz, we've got through some of these 10-minute sections. Then we make the substitution that you've already alluded to. Ollie Hawkins comes on for Jules Lapsley. So I think we end up with Glenn Morris in goal. Still got the same fullbacks. We've then got Hawkins as an additional centre half. So that's a back 5, maybe a back 3 if you try and break. We've then got Armani Little as the only orthodox central midfielder. And then we've got Jaden Clark and Jacob Wakelin playing just behind Marcus Wiley. So was it just a 5 and then a diamond. I'm genuinely not sure.
Something like that. Yeah, I just trying to imagine that. Yeah, maybe something like that. I wonder how fluid it really was, that diamond as well. It probably was quite fluid. They had to come back and defend if they really needed to. But yeah, I think the back five is pretty structured. But I think beyond that, it was quite a fluid formation. It has to be. I mean, Little is the engine of all of that. Absolutely,
phenomenal again. The energy on that kid's absolutely ridiculous.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Whatever it was, Mark Bonner's a genius, because 5 minutes later we went 2-0 up, and it's a really, really good goal. And I want to talk about Marcus Wiley and Jayden Clark, because Marcus has come from, very low level of non-league, like sort of 4 or 5 divisions from where we are. So that'll do him brilliant. Jayden Clark's taken some very undue stick on social media over the last week or so. That'll do him really good. But there's a bit before that I think's gone a little bit unnoticed. Jacob Wakelin does absolutely brilliantly. He tracks back into his own left-back area, out-muscles Cameron Norman, who again falls over like he's been shot. This is a bloke who's about a foot taller than Jacob Wakelin. Jacob Wakelin then doesn't just stop and go, right, I've done my job. He gets up, gets in front of Norman again, plays a great ball down the line for Marcus Wiley. And then, I don't know about you, but in the ground, it felt everything went a bit slow motion. You can see what Marcus Wiley's got to do. He's just got to wait for Jayden Clark to get on the shoulder of his man, and he's just got to release the pass at the perfect time. He does that. Then you're relying on Jayden Clark having a good first touch. He does that. Then you're relying on Jayden Clark showing a bit more composure than he did at Fleetwood a few weeks ago. He absolutely does that to roll it in the bottom corner. And at that point, I thought we were safe.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think on the 83rd minute or so, that goes in the back of the net. But I go all the way back to Wakelin. He does excellently well there. He starts that attack, and it's that thing. It's that determination. He's got his fresh legs enough to get back there, be that defender, win that ball, and then he's got that outlet as well of Wiley, and he does it all so fluidly. It looks so. It's just brilliant. It was beautiful. It really was. It was a really lovely ball down the line. And I tell you what, like when Wiley's running, you consider the as you said, the divisional difference between the clubs that he's now played for and now is playing for. He's running against Turnbull, who is a solid defender as well, and manages to, Turnbull is on the back foot as he's running back, does get that ball across, and then to Clark. I just thought, wow, this guy he's got something in him, and we found a pretty good one down the divisions, actually, to have that composure. And at that point as well, you've got to think, like, if we score this, like you say, we're probably going to win. That just increases that pressure a little bit slightly. Like, this might be the only opportunity we have for the rest of the game, if we then think Tranmere are probably going to get one goal at least. So I think,
because you'd fancy at that point Tranmere to create something else, and then Jayden Clark probably also got the Fleetwood miss in the back of his mind, where he pinched it off the centre half and then just lacked that composure with his first touch. I thought it's a brilliant goal, and I was so pleased for both of them. But I just thought we couldn't talk about it without talking about Jacob Wakelins, because I just thought it got a little bit lost in the fact of the other two with the assist and the goal. Fair play to Tranmere, they kept trying. I suppose at that point you're thinking, if we get one and there's loads of injury time, we might nick a point. So I think it was another cross by Norman. That seemed to be the theme second half. I think they had him high, and they had Harvey Saunders had come on and was just standing on the far touchline as well. And they just said, stay out there and we'll get you the ball. I think Connor Jennings heads it over. We have to bear in mind at this point, we're down to 10 men and we're playing against a side that's got 4 centre forwards on the pitch as well, because they've got Connor Jennings is still on. Luke Norris has been introduced, former Gills player. Harvey Saunders is a striker by trade, but we're playing out wide. Christian Dennis was introduced as well. Not been great for Tranmere, but had a stellar season a couple of years ago for Carlisle at this level, so he knows where the back of the net is. So we're having to contend with just basically an aerial bombardment of just ball after ball being flung into our box, and we've done it really, really well. And then the third goal comes, and at that point we knew that we were safe. And it's really good again. Like, I think Ollie Hawkins gets a little bit isolated on the left with Saunders, so you're not going to stay with him for pace. But he lets the cross come in because he knows he's got 2 centre halves behind him. Maxima can just whack that into the stand, but he doesn't. He has a touch. And then he looks, I'm not saying he's trying to play it to Marcus Wiley's feet, but it lands at Wiley's feet. Suddenly we've got, I think it's a 2-on-2 again. So you're thinking, here we go. Same as 5 minutes before. Can Jayden Clark make the right run? Can Marcus Wiley play the pass at the correct time? Absolutely yes to both.
Yep.
Jaden Clark doesn't do the first bit quite as well as he probably wants. I think he doesn't shift the ball enough to create an angle. But what he does brilliantly after it comes back off McGee is he's still aware, taps it into an empty net. And I'm assuming there must have been something said to him at some point by the Rovers fans, because he blows a few kisses
He does.
in their direction before celebrating. And I think I said at that time, game, set and match. And again, it was another magnificent performance for half an hour without the football.
Absolutely, absolutely. That the timing of the pass couldn't be any more perfect. You know what? I'd as someone messaged me or on Twitter and just said, like, if that was in the Premier League, you would lose the aura and the excitement of that goal because it got a VAR. It was that close, that perfect, that pass. So we can be thankful it's not down in League Two. And but it was absolutely brilliant. And again, it just shows the confidence we have. I do think at Gillingham last season, we go back, we get 10 men behind the ball, and we try and hold on to a 3 points. I mean, to a certain extent, we did that yesterday, but we had an out ball and we had a little bit of pace, a little bit of intelligence going forward when we had those counter-attack opportunities, and we were clinical. And that was ultimately the difference yesterday. If Tranmere, you've conceded 2 goals against a team that's got 10 men, that is not going to do a world of good for your confidence at all, unfortunately.
No. And it comes back to the Rob Apter point. I think you said just at that time when we banked in, they didn't have someone that could unlock a pass or just open us up or get people in behind us enough. So in the sense that we've said we had to defend our box and there was lots of stuff coming into our 6-yard area, we can do that. We've got 2 big centre halves in Maxima and Shadow. You love heading it. You can bring on Ollie Hawkins, who's just going to love heading it as well. You've got 2 fullbacks that are more than capable of defending our box as well. So in that sense, it wasn't too difficult. I think after we adjusted to losing the 10 men, losing the man, we had that 5-minute spell where we had to sort of just sit in and suffer. But after that, we adjusted and I thought we were fine. But again, it's just, I think Mark Bonner said it, this team just loves a scrap, doesn't it? I mean, I wish they'd stop doing it. If you're all watching, just stop getting sent off and we can see out games comfortably and we don't have to go through that for half an hour. But my God, the spirit in this team's unbelievable.
One thing I want to add to that as well, the name we've missed out, and an obvious name we missed out, and I think to have someone like Glenn Morris in goal as well as a backup goalkeeper, let's not mess around here. I mean, he's of age, he's a mature player. I think if you had the Tranmere reserve goalkeeper and you had a combined age of I think 83, I don't.
Yeah, it would have been something like that, wouldn't it? Yeah.
But actually, Glenn yesterday as well, to give him a little bit of credit, there's a few balls into the box that he just claimed with grace and with confidence and obvious experience. And when you have someone like Morris in the goal, when you're under the cosh like that, and I know you've got a strong back 4, like it really just adds that extra layer of security to your defense, knowing you've got someone behind you who knows exactly what they're doing all the time. And I think Morris just gives that final little bit of structure at that back, which is confidence and security. And yesterday he was claiming some crosses that were coming over from Norman as well. And I just thought, yeah, we're all right. We're doing okay.
Yeah, I think trust is a massive word in that as well with back forward and goalkeepers. And I think our back 4 trusts our goalkeeper and our goalkeeper trusts our back 4 just as much. And that is it speaks volumes, doesn't it? It's 4 clean sheets in 6 in the league. So I know 2 of them, I think, were Jake Turner, weren't they? To give him credit. And 2 are now Glenn Morris. But this is the thing. We talk about, and I think there was an overreaction to the Doncaster result last week. And then they got beat by Harrogate in the week. So it comes back to what we've said hundreds of times, and we'll say hundreds of times more. This is a league where you've probably got 75% of the teams think they can get in the top 7. There's going to be a lot of disappointed fans come start of May next year. But it's about, in them moments when it's tough, finding a way. And we found a way a few times this season, which is why I didn't agree with one comment last week about players that can't step up.
I disagree with that.
On social media. So I replied and said, well, these players have stepped up after going at 1-0 and 2-1 against Carlisle. They had to see a tough spell out. They went and stepped up at Morecambe in a tight game to find a winner. They went and stepped up and found a way to draw 0-0 at Fleetwood despite being second best for most of the game. They stepped up for 30 minutes against Chesterfield. Don't then go and just say that they're not capable of doing anything because we've lost to a side that's won 12 on the bounce at home. Yeah. And again, they've stepped up yesterday massively.
And also, like, it's League Two football. You're going to lose a game.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. We're not going to go unbeaten. We're not Man City. We're not Arsenal from 2004. We will probably lose. I don't know. We're certainly going to lose more football matches.
I think we'll lose double figures this season. I'm sure of it. But
Mhm.
it's, but like you said, the difference is we are finding ways to step up and ride through the turbulence of this league and coming out with something to show for it. And that's a difference, I think, compared to what we've had seasons previous.
And we now have players that can be clinical in the key moments when it is tough, that we can still get ourselves over the line like we've done a couple of times with 10 men.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've written down Will Finney discussed, but we've already done that. So we'll gloss over that because I don't want to talk about him again. And so we'll talk about Marcus Wiley and Jayden Clark. We've touched on them again. So Jayden Clark, over the last couple of weeks, I'd say, has got a little bit of criticism. I've seen stuff. He's a non-league player. He's not fit to wear the shirt. He should be nowhere near our team. He's our top scorer.
The top scorer, yeah.
And I know that comes in a 10-minute period, and I say that with jest, but we have to remember 18 months ago, this kid, I think, was working on a building site and was playing part-time.
Yep.
So fast forward 18 months and have now played 51 times is a phenomenal rise for a kid that's still learning the game and still adjusting to be a full-time professional.
Pretty good, isn't it? I think so.
I'd be happy with it at 23. Let's put it that way. I just think, and I've been critical of players before, I get that. But when you're doing it to someone that's probably knows he's not a regular starter, probably knows he's not first choice when everybody's fit, you then have to just be, I think, more arm round the shoulder than screaming and shouting and criticising. Someone might moan at me now and say, well, you criticised everybody last season. That's fine. I've got no issue with that. But I don't think Jayden Clark is anywhere near as bad as people were making out over the last couple of weeks. He's got 2 goals and assists in the league this season. We've scored, what, 9 goals?
Yep.
So he's been directly involved in 33% of our goals this season in the league.
I mean, there's a stat speak for itself. I don't know. I think, again, is it this kind of thing that people, no matter what, always try and find a scapegoat for anything? Like it's always someone's fault. It's always the reason that something happens. And it's like, well, the reason that something happened yesterday, he got 2 goals and made that game secure for us. That's what he did yesterday. So it's in the locker, it's there, and it's only going to get better. Leave the guy alone. He's developing.
Absolutely. No, totally agree with that. And I get we all have our own opinions and see things differently. But yeah, I agree with that sentiment entirely. Marcus Wiley, 2 assists. I'm giving him both. I don't think it goes down as a second assist technically because Jayden Clark's then had his first effort save. But for me, it's an assist because if Marcus Wiley don't play that pass, Jayden Clark essentially doesn't score his goal, regardless of how many attempts he took. So that'll do him the world of good. I think we've said before, like, it's a strange one with Marcus because he's not like an 18 or 19-year-old that we plucked out of non-league. He's 25. So, but again, it's a similar situation to Jayden Clark. He's adjusting to becoming, it's the first time he's been a professional footballer. So it's only 6 months ago he was working during the day, training a couple of nights a week and playing semi-professional. For me, he's got everything you want in a centre forward as a lower league footballer. You can just tell in the warm-ups that he knows how to finish. He knows his angles. His awareness for the goals yesterday is absolutely spot on. So similar to Jayden, that'll do him the world of good. And like you said, we might just have found a rough diamond here that we can polish.
Absolutely. And I think also, like, from Wiley's perspective, it must be a real daunting sort of experience going, right, I've played for Enfield. Now I'm playing in the league for Gillingham. That's a huge step up. I need to reassure myself that I am capable of playing at this level. And I think yesterday probably, would have really helped that process for him. Go, okay, I can do this. I can stay at this level. I can develop at this level. I think that sometimes at that level, you just need that reassurance because it's a huge step up, but he's capable of staying there. And he demonstrated that with flying colours yesterday.
Absolutely. And again, we're not saying that they're going to both start every week now and they're going to score goals and provide assists every single game. But it shows that in moments that if we support them and Mark Bonner and the coaching team nurture them, that they can have an impact on this team. Similarly to someone that we've already waxed lyrical about. So final question before we say full time for this one. Man of the match, Joe Bode or Armani Little?
I'm going down the side of Joe Bode. This one. For me, I know Little was the engine in the midfield, and I know that he was orchestrating everything and kept going right to the end. To know, I think Bode's just he was very, very visible yesterday, and everyone was like, wow, okay, this guy means he's got it in him. And he's, you know what? I use the phrase, he's one of our own. And that might, for me, was a difference yesterday why he got man of the match.
No, I wouldn't dispute it at all, but I'm going to sit on the fence massively and bottle it. They were both magnificent. Everybody was magnificent, to be fair, Rhys. Like, that was a proper team performance.
It was.
When you go down to 10, you want your centre halves to head and clear everything. They did that. You want your fullbacks to tuck in and be compact. They did that. You want your centre forwards to hold the ball up when they can. We did that. You want your substitutes to come on and make an impact. Boy, they did that. Just a phenomenal effort again from everyone. But I'm gonna sit on the fence. But Joe Bode looks like he belongs. Jaden Clark looks like he can belong. Marcus Wiley looks like he can belong. I think that is a nice place to end this one.
I think you're right.
Right, Gills fans and Tranmere fans. Oh, just quickly, you may notice I'm not wearing a Gills shirt this morning for this episode. I am wearing a Prostate Cancer UK top, which was given to me and asked to be worn by Justin Foote, who is a Gills fan, who will start embarking on another one of his monstrous charity walks on the 1st of October. A man dies of prostate cancer every 45 minutes. That's one half of football. So yesterday, we could have lost 2 whilst watching Gills take on Tranmere Rovers. So please, I will put the link in the description at the bottom of this video under everything else. Please go and have a look. And if you can, dig deep and donate to Justin's great cause. It would be greatly appreciated by myself and, of course, Justin. I'll try and wear this a few more times throughout the next month or two while he does his walk, and try and put the link in the description at the bottom of all videos. So please, if you can, like I say, donations would be greatly appreciated. As always, thanks for watching. If you are a Gills fan or a Tranmere fan at this point, I do appreciate the support. Keep saying it, 4,000 subscribers is the goal before the end of the season. So please continue to like these videos and hit that subscribe button. It's free to do so, and it really helps me out. Don't forget to go and check out Rhys's content and reaction from yesterday's game. Always a fun watch. We'll be back Wednesday with a Notts County fan to preview next Saturday's now top of the table clash between first and second place as we travel to Meadow Lane. And of course, we'll be back for another match day live next weekend. But until then, I hope you've had a good weekend. Hope you enjoy going to work on Monday with 3 points in the back pocket again. And until then, up the Gills.